Good morning, boys and girls. It's Miss Lauver, and today I'm going to be doing your instructional read aloud for May 11th, 2020. And I have our learning target and our success criteria listed out here for us today. Our learning target has been the same the last few weeks, and it says, I can grow my knowledge as a nonfiction reader. So we are still working on nonfiction text. Remember, NF, not fake. All things that are real. So our stories are things that are real or true. And our success criteria for us today reads, I'm successful when I can monitor for meaning and use the click and chunk strategy. So today, when I am doing my instructional read aloud, I will show you how to do the click and chunk strategy. So I'll be modeling that for y'all today. And I'll have a little anchor chart that will help y'all with that strategy as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, boys and girls, here is our anchor chart for today. So the title of our anchor chart says Read, Stop, and Think. And then we have this top portion here, and then we have the bottom portion down here. So the top says, is it a click? So what does that mean? Well, think of it as a lock. Does it click? Does it make sense? If it makes sense as you're reading it, then you can keep reading it. If you're reading it and you're understanding what's going on in the story, you understand the characters, how they're feeling, or what the author's trying to teach you, then you're doing the right thing. You can keep reading. Or if it's a clunk. Now, a clunk means that it's not clicking. You see that the lock is not clicking and closing on the way? That means that something doesn't quite make sense. So what is the strategy you can use when something is a clunk? You can go back and you can reread. So a click is if something clicks and makes sense, like a lock, you can keep reading. And then a clunk is when you're reading something and it doesn't quite make sense. You don't understand what is happening. You don't understand what you're reading. So your strategy for that is you can reread. I'm going to show you how to do this strategy by modeling it in one of my books. Okay, so here is the page that I'm going to read and model for you all today. It's in my whale book. It's called We Whales, so we're probably going to be reading about baby whales. But I'm going to read this paragraph right here, and then I'm going to go over the click and clunk strategy as I'm reading it. All right, so the first sentence says, whales are mammals. Well, that clicks with me. That makes sense, so I'm going to keep reading. Baby whales are born live and drink their mother's milk for the first 2 years or so of life. I'm going to say that one's a clunk because that one had a lot of information. It was a longer sentence, so I want to go back and reread it just to make sure that I'm getting all the information from that sentence, okay? So baby whales are born live, so they're born live. They're not born out of eggs or anything like that. And drink their mother's milk, so they drink milk just like human babies. And they do that for the first 2 years or so of life. Okay, so I went back and I reread the sentence because it was a clunk. It didn't make sense to me. And now that I went back and reread it, I think it's a click. It makes sense now that I went back and reread it. Young whales are called calves. Well, that's a click. That makes sense to me. So y'all noticed how I read each sentence one at a time. I read the first sentence and it was a thumbs up. It was a click. It made sense to me. I read the second sentence and it was a clunk. It was way too much for me. I had to go back and reread it to get all the information. And once I reread it, then it was a click. It made sense the second time I read it through. And the last sentence was also a click. It made sense to me. All right, I'm going to model it one more time on the next page. So you can get a picture real fast, get a look at that. All right, so it says, calves are born tail first and take their first breath within 30 seconds of being born. Ooh, that was way too much for me. That was a clunk. I'm going to have to go back and use my strategy. I'm going to have to go back and reread until it makes sense. So calves, which are baby whales, so calves are born tail first. So that means that they come out tail first, not head first when they're born. And take their first breath within seconds of being born. All right, so that looking at the picture, that means that the second that they're born, they come up to get air. All right, so I went back and reread it, and now the second time I read it, it makes sense. So now that sentence is a click. They learn to swim within 30 minutes. That's a click. That makes sense to me. Just like human kids, calves can be playful. Ooh, I like that. It's a click. That makes sense. So to me, I know that whales and kids like to play. They're playful. They play on the surface of the water while older whales are diving. Ooh, that's a click for me also. So again, I went through every sentence and I decided if it was a click, it made sense, or a clunk. it didn't make sense. And if something did not make sense, I went back and I reread it. Okay, boys and girls, so this was an overview of the click and clunk strategy. So remember that if something clicks, it clicks in your mind and it makes sense and you can keep reading. Now, if it's a clunk, it doesn't click, it doesn't sound right, it doesn't make sense, you don't understand it, that's when you go back and you can reread it until it becomes a click. So keep rereading until it makes sense. And today, your passage is Money Matters. So you have 3 different things. You can do Money Matters, the packet, you can do an epic nonfiction story, or you could do a personal book. But today, for your assignment, I want you to practice the strategy, practice looking for things that click and for things that are clunks. And I want you to share with your teacher, whether it's on Remind or Dojo or an email or phone call, of something that clicked and something that clunked with you. All right? And if y'all need any help, please reach out to me, okay? Bye.